Welcome to this webinar entitled Academia Reimagined, AI as the Catalyst. My name is El-Khatib. I'm an epidemiologist by training and an associate professor in global health. But here I am in my capacity as the founder of the Facebook group called Epidemiologists. Artificial intelligence, or as we know it by the name of AI, stands at the crossroad of history, transforming academia not just as a tool for learning, but as a profound collaborator in the quest for knowledge, challenging our brightest minds to reimagine the future of intellectual pursuit. Today, we will discuss 5 questions with the following esteemed panelists. Dr. Reimagined is an epidemiologist and associate professor with the Interdisciplinary School of Health Sciences at the University of Ottawa. He currently holds a research chair in university teaching, focusing on the use of AI in post-secondary education. Then we have Dr. Amani Eltayb, is an educational developer and a researcher. Since Amani obtained her PhD from the Karolinska Instiutet, she has combined teaching and researching on different fields as pharmacology, global health, and sexual reproductive health. Her areas of responsibilities as educator include teaching and advising on issues focused on global health, global citizenship, sustainable development goals, and integrating Agenda 2030 in education at the Karolinska Institutet. Then we have Dr. Jordan Lebel, is a professor in the Department of Marketing at the John Molson School of Business, where he teaches MBA courses and chairs the Curriculum Development Committee. His area of interest are food marketing, public health, and governance. And we have Dr. Maria Bouzaid, Associate Professor and Dean of the Faculty of Humanities at Notre Dame University, Louazy, NDU, Lebanon. And finally, we have Dr. Peter Singer, who is the co-founder of University of Ottawa Joint Center for Bioethics and Grand Challenges Canada. And he is the former special advisor to WHO Director General, and he is Professor of Medicine. For today's webinar, we have 5 questions. And as we have 5 questions and 5 panelists, so I have used a new method for the rounds of questions. So I have randomized the panelists and matched them randomly with the questions. So then each time there is a question, a new question, there is one panelist who will take the first initiative to answer them, and the rest of the panelists, they can intervene and chip in. So now I will start with the first question. Okay, so this question is from Kenya, and it says, I would love to see AI incorporated into academia. I would be very eager to know, can we effectively integrate AI into academia and still safeguard the education quality standards? So this question is quite foundational by asking about the integration of AI into academic practices and to ensure quality, which is a practical and initial step before discussing further implications. So here I would like to invite Ray to take the stab on this.
Okay, this is like a game show, and I think I've won the toss. I love that I get this question. It's a big question, and we have to break it down first. Academia means a lot of things. It means teaching, learning, research, administration, grant applications, all that fun stuff. We also have to break down what AI means, frankly. Right now, it means mostly LLMs, large language models like ChatGPT, and machine learning for the most part. It means more than that, but that's what most people think of it as. And frankly, Google Scholar can be considered an AI research tool. And there are tools for qualitative and quantitative data analysis, summarizing large bodies of text, generally organizing your life, which is where the administrative applications of AI in academia comes into play. But once you get into the woods about AI in research and admin, it gets very swampy pretty fast. There are just so many tools out there. If you Google AI research academia, the sponsored links are in the hundreds because there's so many companies popping up with their tools. But if we focus just on the teaching, which is where my expertise is, what most people are concerned about is LLMs like ChatGPT and Bard and things like that. Is using it cheating? I think that's what the question is asking here. Educational quality is about fraud. Is using ChatGPT in your classes cheating? It might be. It comes down to how you define cheating. So the calculator was once thought to be cheating in math class back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, but we've learned to live with the calculator, right? It's an essential tool pretty much for most of us. And the expertise, the teaching came down to how best to use the calculator in classrooms and in practice. Very often now you find high school math classes, the teachers ask the students, take out your calculator, now figure out how to create, this function or whatever. Similarly, I think there's going to be a whole side industry in learning to use LLMs and ChatGPT the right way, in using their prompts, because it's all about getting the right prompts. Anybody can ask ChatGPT to write an essay, for example, and you can use it iteratively, interactively, and so forth to write a good essay to address a topic meaningfully. But most students don't do that. They will just simply say, ChatGPT, write me an essay on this topic. And a good professor will know that's not really addressing the intent of the question, right? So ChatGPT often creates hallucinations. Hallucinations is when they make up stuff. Like I once asked it to write a bio about me because I'm an egotist, and it made up some stuff that wasn't true, right? So at least two things have to happen, I think, for us to have high quality use of AI in teaching at the university level. First, universities have to reimagine what fraud looks like, because I don't think the use of these tools can be considered fraudulent in the near future when they become so ubiquitous. Second, a new avenue of instruction has to evolve. And that would look like on how best to effectively use ChatGPT and other things like it, as we did with the calculator. So those are two of the avenues that have to be developed, I think, to address the question that this person has asked about maintaining educational qualities. I'll let better experts tackle the question about AI in actual research, but I think the teaching, it comes down to that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ray. So from the other panelists, who would like to take a step on that as well? Any thoughts? Yeah, please, Amani.
Yes, thank you so much, Ray. It was really well said. I just wanted to add that wouldn't it be better for us as educators is to focus on accountability and ethical learning instead of saying this is fraud or this is cheating or this is. Can we focus more on training our students to be more accountable, more responsible, guard their own learning in order to reach or to transform? Our higher education institutions should focus more on transformation. What shall we do in order to transform our way of teaching or researching or working in order to connect to our societies and then face the challenge that we have today in our world? Thank you.
Thanks, Amani. Any other thoughts?
Ziad, maybe I'll just jump in if that's okay. I'd like to broaden the question a little bit because I think it's good to focus on risks at the beginning of a conversation. And, in medicine, when we talk about quality, we also talk about safety. And so I'd like to talk a little bit about safety and risks. And I'd like to do it from the context of this book, The Imperative of Responsibility, which was published by Hans Jonas in 1979, but anticipated the development of large language models and AI. And what Jonas, who's a philosopher, says is that any good theory of ethics must be undergirded by a theory of metaphysics. And what he really means by that is that the first imperative, the first ethical imperative in technology, and it would also apply to AI, is that there be a humankind. In other words, focus first on the things that could, the existential threats that could lead to non-existence. And this might sound a little bit scary and alarmist. And let me just say up front that I believe that the benefits of AI vastly outnumber the risks. But I do think that we must always pay attention to the existential risks. And just to be very concrete, in the context of academia, there is an existential risk, which is someone trained in academia, in biosciences, and in AI, can use the AI to genetically engineer biothreats that are new, that are more potent, that pose existential risks. And indeed, this was a focus of the executive order the US president did on AI about 3 months ago. And so I just wanted to start our discussion by talking not only about quality, but also about safety, including the risks, including a focus on the existential risks, and highlighting only one of those existential risks that exists, not exactly in academia, because there are no formal courses on bioterrorism, but certainly adjacent to academia, as many of the threats actually come from non-state actors, some of whom will have had training. And these might be low risk, low probability threats, but they're high consequence. And I think any ethical code, any discussion of AI should start with a focus on those existential risks, even though the benefits of AI greatly outnumber the risks, and therefore it becomes a question of governing AI, which is really the thrust of this question in academia, which my colleagues have so well addressed. Thank you, Ziad.
Thanks, Peter. Any further comments? Yeah, please, Jordan.
If we have time for one last comment, I really love how both Ray and Peter have set us up. Ray's idea of coming up with new instructions on how to best use AI. My brain went to what we as individual faculty members can do in our classes and our teaching to, invite students to apply reflective, introspective practices, critical thinking, so to minimize or mitigate or manage those existential threats and risks that Peter was talking about. And certainly at an individual level, we can all do that with creativity, with curiosity, with passion. My brain goes back to the title of this session, AI, Academia Reimagined. Academia as a corporate structure or entity is not really well known for self-preservation, yes, on one end, but speed and adaptability on the other, no way. Glaciers move faster than universities. And I think universities really have to be a bit more proactive than they have been in addressing some of the structural issues that can support professors and students in learning to deal with this new tool. And I think that's where universities have failed a little bit so far. Our university was one of the last to come up with guidelines about reimagining fraud and plagiarism, as Ray took us down that path. So I think, admin officials in various universities have to do a better job in providing at least some of the structure. And in that regard, so does the legal system. The issue of copyright and trademarks for protecting professors' work or anyone's work within the scope of AI is still in a bit of a gray zone. So I think, a couple of things have to occur in parallel. Definitely one of the things I'd like to see is definitely academia taking more of a proactive role in, for lack of a better word, reinventing itself when it's needed, and preserving what is good about it in the age of AI.
Thanks, Jordan. Any further comments? Nope. Okay, let's go for the second.
I hope I wasn't depressing there too much. I just realized how negative that all sounded.
Well, still way to go. We still have 4 questions. You never know. It might get better.
Tone it
Say
down.
something about chocolate. That'll lighten it up.
All right. So this question is, I will, Amani, please prepare yourself. You have been matched for this question. So it says, how can AI be leveraged? This is from Nigeria, this question coming. How can AI be leveraged to foster greater interdisciplinary collaboration and innovation within academia? So I felt kind of this is like once AI integration is being addressed, that the next logical step is to explore its potential to enhance collaboration and innovation, which is a direct application of AI in academia. So Amani, please, the floor is yours.
Yeah. This is really interesting question. I like it actually because it's, as you say, the next step. How can we apply AI in order to foster collaboration, innovation within academia? And I would mention maybe talking about research and education both. So it has a significant chance, or it can play a big role. AI can play a big role in fostering both collaboration and innovation because those tools produce vast amount of data, knowledge that different disciplines can use and can apply, and the and also AI can be used as automated tools for producing content or analyzing image or text. So this kind of how do you call it, accelerating the work that researchers and educators maybe will do. It will give them more time, but it can be used more to target societal problems, the complex problems that usually or traditionally academia not or often traditionally not approach. As like you can take, for example, think about all challenges that we have around our world, like poverty, environmental, those wicked problems like climate change, poverty, for example, how to govern technology. How are we like the topics that usually academia not often target. So AI can be used in that way. And also it can be helpful to use AI to bridge the gaps between the division of different disciplines, and then merge those gaps and like transfer the knowledge between disciplines, and then you can have those interdisciplinary approach for those complex problems and complex issues that difficult to be approached, like global health crisis, for example. Also, it can enhance creativity. When you find a lot of amount of data, a lot of amount of challenges, it can help with, as I mentioned, producing data, gathering insights between different disciplines, so people can have a broader understanding, broader picture of the problem, so they can have a better solutions or better research outcomes. But of course, we have to pay attention for the how did this data being collected? Was it inclusive? Was it biased? We have to pay attention for that as well. If I talk about this, I discussed a little bit about research in general, but if I talk about education as well, AI can be helpful in helping in ending poverty, for example, can be used in improving education, like it can be teaching assistant. If we are advancing in producing those kind of tools to teach kids in remote areas, I hope one day. But we have also to be careful and always understand it can help us to produce data, to collect insights, to enhance our understanding, but it will never, I think, that's my own opinion, that it will never replace us, because it will never give our students this higher order thinking. It can help us with reaching or improving our critical thinking, but it will never be replace us as human being to reach or to provide or to develop this higher order thinking. So, but in a way, for example, if you think about language, it can help so many students that they struggle with language. It will save them a lot of time. It will save researcher to accelerate their time, to save their time in like saving their time in doing the critical thinking and coming with new inspiring ideas and innovation, and like to communicate with each other. Because if I receive message that I don't understand and I can ask Bing to explain to me, then it will improve communications as well in a way. It also can help us with accessibility. It can help students with dyslexia, for example. Students with more to be to like create more inclusive environment as well. So it has, I see, different potential for AIs if it's applied in a good way, but also we have to think about evaluation and processes. How are we gonna follow that? I think this we need in academia. We need to change or to imagine or to like shift within the change and the quick production of AI. We have to change our mindset as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Amani. Other colleagues who would like to take step on this?
Ziad, if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to
Please,
take a
please, Ray.
thank you for that. Those excellent comments, by the way. My first thought about interdisciplinary collaboration is so many professional researchers don't have sufficient overlap in our skill sets to manage a truly collaborative effort. Usually one or two people took the lead on a project and run with it, and the rest of us kind of pipe up in committee meetings and offer our input. The beauty of AI research tools is they can help bring the rest of us up to speed. For example, if I am not a qualitative researcher and the interdisciplinary collaborative project is a qualitative one, an AI tool can assist me in bridging that gap on my expertise. In addition, there are the administrative AI tools. So another burden in collaborative efforts is taking minutes during meetings, organizing meetings, remembering to have meetings, summarizing meetings. AI is very good at those things. So the nitty-gritty nuts and bolts stuff, I think, is where we're going to see the most immediate impact of AI on encouraging and accelerating interdisciplinary collaboration. The ways in which it may be a detriment to such collaboration, I feel, isn't almost exactly the same things I just said. So if I don't have sufficient expertise in qualitative research, I'm relying on AI as a crutch to get me up to speed. And maybe that's not indicative of me needing to be on that project if I can't keep up on my own merits. But to summarize, I think AI immediately has the ability to provide us with nuts and bolts support for getting collaborations off the ground. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ray. Yeah, please, Jordan.
If I could just add something. Oh, go ahead, Maria.
No, it's okay, Jordan. I can comment later on.
Go ahead.
Okay, Ziad, I'm also leaving my take on this because I'm as pessimist as Jordan was in his first intervention. But I would say when we talk about collaboration and innovation at our current situation right now, I see it very optimistic, which is not bad. So we have to think about it. We have to think about it and about the different opportunities that can be brought by AI on this particular level. But I also agree with Jordan. Universities and academic institutions are still reacting instead of acting. So we're still reactive instead of proactive. But when we listen to such, or when we have such big titles, collaboration and innovation within academia, we can think about AI as a double-edged sword. So we can think about collaboration if we really benefit from what AI can bring to us in terms of collaboration to bring researchers from some parts of the world where knowledge production is weak with other parts, with researchers in other parts of the world, maybe, so that this gap or this divide can be somehow compensated or can be reduced to a big extent. But we don't want to see maybe the same scenario of knowledge production and research, and especially the current situation of research and sometimes the resources needed for research, the same scenario duplicated or replicated with AI. So that's why a lot of things and a lot of work should be done in order really to think about the different opportunities that AI can bring on this particular level.
Thanks, Maria. Jordan?
2 cents worth. I mean, I fully agree with the earlier comment and one of Ray's comment about interdisciplinary work. One thing that strikes me about this kind of work is, certainly at the very beginning, you need to learn to dance the pas de deux, so to speak, with someone from another discipline. And maybe that's where AI can help us accelerate that process a little bit. Not that I've published that much, but 80% of my publications are with people outside of my domain because I thrive on learning from others. But that always comes at a price. Sometimes you're not as productive as you get to know another discipline. And I think where AI can help is even bridge disciplines that have not been known to entertain a dialogue, at least at an academic level. I think that's very promising. But the word that that attracted me in this question when I first read it is the word collaboration. So maybe as a prereq, in academia, we love our prerequisites to leveraging AI. I think we have to learn to collaborate better than we have. And AI cannot teach us that as humans. Years ago, I ran a project, it's like 8 or 9 years ago. I ran an open innovation project in my food marketing class where my students, along with the students of 2 other universities in similar courses, worked on a project. And we had a software, beginning of the open innovation software, some components powered by early versions of AI, where students could collaborate in a full transparency mode, share resources and whatnot. And at the end of the term, I did a little assignment where I asked students to reflect on that project because it was the first time I was using this. And one young lady, one student in particular said, you know, sir, I've been a student in this business school for 3 years now. Everything has always been about competition. We compete on case study competitions. We compete for grades. We compete for time and attention of our professors. And here you are in our last year telling us we have to collaborate. We just don't know how. And that always stuck with me very, very much. And I think the learning is, how do we adapt then our curriculum to develop some of those soft skills, some of those transferable skills that help students use AI to collaborate. So I think there's a bit of a prereq there. I'm not sure how we get there, and I'm not sure where in the curriculum it can be embedded, but I think that's an important sort of prereq to better leverage AI in such collaborations. So I was trying to be less pessimist, Maria.
I think Amani has something to say about this as well.
Just for the comment for Jordan. Yeah, I totally agree with you. But I think we can use AI, but at the same time, we can train our students and our staff on about culture, humility, and cultural competence.
Mm-hmm.
Before, as you can use AI to generate like knowledge or whatever, co-creation knowledge when you have collaboration or whatever, but these humane skills that we need as human beings to cooperate, that AI cannot replace it. It can help with the foundation, the knowledge foundation, but the training is needed. And you mentioned competition, and competition is produced by our systems. That's why we have to rethink our academic system and our curriculum and find out where to like where can we task or target those problems. And I totally agree with you. Cultural humility and cultural competence training are needed at all level within our higher education institution. Thank you.
Thanks, Amani. Peter, do you like to say anything, or?
I'll come in on the next one to help us get moving. I want to actually appreciate and respect the excellent comment Maria just made about equity and build upon it, but I'll do it in the next one after the.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks. So the next one is actually for Maria. This is from Sweden. And this question says, AI has read the world literature, which no academic has. Yet AI is, or not yet, transformative. When the world needs transformational ideas and leaders, how can academics assume this role to create new ideas and a new leader or new leadership? So I thought about this question that kind of it goes beyond the application of AI, and it goes more, delves into the role of academics in the era of AI. And it challenges the status quo. And it asks how academics can complement the breadth of AI's data consumption with the depth of human insight. So Maria, please, the floor is yours.
Yes, Ziad. First of all, allow me to combine everything based on the first question also, because when we talk about AI and the transformational power of AI, let us talk about AI today as a new technology knocking on our door, or a technology that will not knock on our doors in order to enter. So the comparison made about AI and the calculator, or it's like any technology. But let me, why I'm introducing or why I'm starting with this, because we have also to talk about this from a general educational or pedagogical perspective. So when I have my son who's like 12 years old and who asks his teacher, can I use AI for this project, let's say, and the answer is totally forbidden. The answer of the teacher was, no, it's totally forbidden. So how can we talk about transformative power or transformational ideas and leaders in this system? So the resistance is so big, and this is where I want to what I want to emphasize on. So because the resistance is still big, so maybe it's still early to talk about transformational ideas, but we should not neglect, or we should not ignore the fact that it's time for higher education institutions to play their role on this level. We cannot, and here I'm somehow agreeing with the colleagues who said maybe we are taken by the bureaucracy, by the systems, everything takes a lot of time, so we don't have the luxury of time here. It is maybe the right time for universities to play their role in really embracing the power of this technology that is here. If we don't adopt it, then our students will adopt it faster than us. and we will be reacting instead of acting, and instead of playing a very proactive role on this level. So let me also now transition to the idea of transformational ideas, or us as maybe administrators in our institutions. Yes, definitely, everyone is concerned about this. And when we talk about this, I will restart with teaching the way it was somehow put in the first question. So if we want to talk today about teaching, it's time to transform our traditional methods in teaching. It's time to rethink our assessment methods. Yes, we can do it. We did it during COVID, and we can do the same way. We can reflect on our materials. We can reflect on the competencies, on the outcomes. So it's time, yes, it's not a cliche when we talk about critical thinking. So it's not also very hard to rethink about our assessment methods. So maybe we are now testing the writing skills of our students in, let's say, language courses. Maybe we can do something else. Even when we talk about the transformational ideas and transformational way in dealing with this technology, let's think about research, the way it was also alluded to by some colleagues. So when we talk about research, why not rethinking our promotion scheme and promotion criteria in our institutions? So it's a lot to think about, but definitely we have to assume our role. We have to assume our role. Many institutions started to put roadmaps, frameworks, etc., but we actually need to go back to the legal point of view. So even we can rethink our values and redefine our values. We can redefine what is ethical and what is not ethical, in the sense that a new technology is here. So we can also talk about the regulatory and self-regulatory solutions that we can find as leaders in our societies, in order to deal and to embrace and mitigate the risks, between brackets, of AI, so that we can really embrace this technology and use the positive impact more than focusing on the negative side.
Thanks so much, Maria.
Ziad, I'd be happy to come in now.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to build on Maria's comments from the previous question. You know, I think the key word in this question is leadership. Leadership is so important in a field, in a scientific field. And the last question was about collaboration. And Maria made the point that in thinking about collaboration, we really have to think about equity, namely collaboration of researchers from all parts of the world, to avoid, frankly, a repeat of the digital divide. And I think that's even more important when you talk about leadership, because it's one thing to be a collaborator, it's another thing to be a leader. And, you know, leadership is universal, and talent is universal, opportunity is not. And so, you know, a key principle, shall we say, of development of AI in academia, which is the focus of this seminar, should be equity. And the most important equity is around people. And the most important aspect of people is enabling their leadership and providing opportunity. To take a very concrete example, the Grand Challenges partners launched about a year ago a grand challenge called Catalyzing Equitable AI Use to Improve Global Health. And that challenge was awarding 48 grants in 17 countries. You can read them all at grandchallenges.org, www.grandchallenges.org. But to me, it's a great example of enabling not only ideas, but also leaders from all around the world, from including low and middle income countries, to take part. Because if we don't develop that sense of leadership, we'll never have a sense of solidarity. Not only will the best ideas be left off the table because people close to a problem are best situated to solve their own problem, we give up on prosperity, we give up on jobs, and basically we give up on AI if we can't have equity in leadership. And so very, very glad that the Grand Challenges partners, and here, by the way, I'm talking not only about Gates Foundation, but also about, and even more importantly, maybe Grand Challenges India, Grand Challenges Brazil, Grand Challenges Africa, South Africa, Senegal, Ethiopia, all of whom participated in this call for proposals, because the platforms, the funding platforms also need to be in low and middle income countries. Anyway, I wanted to highlight this initiative because to my way of thinking, it's the best and most focused example in AI and academia in the area of health that's trying to enable ideas from all around the world, and especially leaders from all around the world. And this idea of equity in leadership in a scientific field as it's emerging, I think is one of the most fundamental levers in the development of a field. And so I wanted to really emphasize it. Thank you, Ziad.
Thanks, Peter. So, anyone would like to take a stab on this? Or you want to wait for another question? Silence, silence, silence. Okay, let's move to the next one. This question is for Jordan, and it is from the UK, from Edinburgh. What will happen to the academic career trajectory and power structure when AIs become more efficient research assistants than human postdocs? So here I felt that this question introduces a speculative element regarding the future of academia and the professional impacts of AI, which requires a more complex analysis of trends and potential scenarios. So Jordan, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ziad. My brain was reeling 200 miles an hour when I read this question, and I was trying to figure out what, as many of the other questions, like so many angles you can come in at this. First of all, I'm not sure that AI itself is going to alter fundamentally the existing power structure, because it is very ingrained in academia, right? You do your master's, your PhD, eventually a postdoc if you want to do it. And the other aspect of it is that we have collective agreements in place in many areas that put parameters around the work of research assistants, even postdoc assistants. So there are some parameters there to preserve some elements of the contributions that RAs, research assistants, and postdocs can make. But where my brain really went is picturing myself as a postdoc today, or an RA, a research assistant today, and imagining what impact AI can have on my work. And I think it places the burden on upcoming generations of academics, research assistants and postdocs, to understand the technology and figure out where is their niche, where is their contribution in applying that technology with, as Amani pointed us earlier, with cultural sensitivity and humility. And I think that's where the impact is going, part of the impact is going to be for RAs and postdocs. I'm not sure it's going to fundamentally change the power structure. And I say this as someone who pioneered online courses more than 20 years ago, with a very big, I had over 2,000 students a year online, doing highly qualitative work, submitting over 2,000 words in writing across the term, and having RAs, and TAs poring over this and grading everything. And then all of a sudden, our teaching assistants got unionized, AI came into the mix, and we learned to adapt. But fundamentally, TAs and RAs remain very important in that course. I think it shifts a little bit, maybe their tasks descriptions, but fundamentally, I'm not sure, or at least at the moment, I don't see how it alters fundamentally the power structure, other than placing the burden on postdocs and RAs to bring something extra, to say, hey, I can use AI. And Ray quite correctly pointed us in acknowledging that AI is not one thing. It's a collection of tools and other things. And so how good are you at using those tools? With what discernment, with what critical thinking are you using them? And part of my brain, I'm sorry to date myself here, but went back to about 20 years ago at the beginning steps of social media in my discipline of marketing. And I remember marketers, academics and practitioners being so afraid almost that, oh, this was going to change everything. We would have to retool and rethink how we do marketing. And true, social media accelerated the pace of things a little bit, just by way of one statistic. I mean, a quarter of crises in organizations spread to international media within about an hour. And yet organizations still take about 21 hours on average to respond to a crisis in the making. So yes, social media has, accelerated the clock a little bit, but the fundamentals are still there. The fundamentals of marketing are still there. It's just one more tool that we have to do our job. And somehow the reason I make this parallel is I think AI is going to become one of those. It's one more tool. It's not a panacea. It has to be used with discernment. And as I keep coming back to Amani's word, cultural sensitivity and humility, but I don't know that it's going to fundamentally change the existing power structure. Maybe some of my esteemed colleagues have a different take and can make me see something I haven't here.
Thanks, Jordan. Ray, I see you.
Yeah, I like to pipe up. I agree with much of what Jordan's saying, but this is a question that really concerns me because outside of academia, beyond academia, AI is clearly a societally transformative adventure. And I definitely feel that there are going to be swaths of sectors beset with HR crises. Entire categories of white-collar work will be rendered ancient and not relevant anymore. Typist used to be a job. Data entry clerk used to be a job. It still is a little bit. These things were just pushed to the wayside by new technologies. AI is going to do the same thing for a lot of jobs, including research assistants. But Jordan is right that ultimately we have to redefine the role of research assistants. I think increasingly they're going to be more useful in people management, less on data management and less on administrative management. That's going to take a generational shift, though. And with change comes pain. So we're looking at probably a generation of disruption and HR pain and a lot of discontent before we settle into the new normal. The problem is, I don't know if a new normal is possible with the rapid pace of evolution of this technology. Every generation will have to experience a new normal as the ground shifts beneath us all the time. I don't know. But this is the topic that worries me the most with the advent of AI.
Thanks, Ray. And if the colleagues would like to take a step on this, or we move on to the last question. Oh, okay.
Am I allowed to react just very, very quickly? Because Ray sparked a thought in connection with Maria's earlier comment about your 12-year-old son, I believe, asking to do her homework, and the instructor's response, which I interpret as being more fear-driven, say, oh, no, I can't trust this 12-year-old human to handle this massive tool that can be so dangerous. And so I think to Ray's point, we're going to have to learn to embrace some of these new normal at a much faster rate and not let it be fear driven, but instead to rethink how we interface with it. And again, what does academia do? We're not just training employable people. We're helping human beings to open up themselves and to develop lifelong skills. And I think this adaptability skill is going to be one of them we're going to have to emphasize a bit more from now on. Sorry, it's close parenthesis.
Yes, Ziad, if I may also add one quick comment. What human postdocs will be doing, they will be doing something else. So this is with the creativity, with adaptability, definitely they will be doing something else. We had a full day conference about the impact of AI on the translation and interpretation field in general. And the conclusion was, because we're talking about some jobs or some industries that may be more impacted than others. And the answer was simply with the human touch, with the somehow adaptability. Also, I stress on the word adaptability. Human beings will be doing something else. We will be doing something else, maybe something more productive in order to move forward. So this is how we can simply put it. Definitely, we have to understand that things in 2 years or 3 years, it will not take us as much as the social media shift took. It took maybe 20 years in the marketing field, or maybe less, but here the pace is much faster, and that's why we have to think about how we can really adapt and avoid resistance, because it will be detrimental, and it will limit the impact of the positive impact that we can build on when it comes to artificial intelligence.
Amani, please go ahead.
I just a very quick comment. I think academia should focus on. There is a lot of focus on AI because it's going very quickly, but at the same time, it should be a serious focus on values and competencies of the new generation who are going to lead this world. Because without transparency, accountability, like respecting others, thinking about human rights, thinking about sustainable lifestyle, thinking about nonviolence society, this is going to be very, very difficult. And the postdoc, as Maria said, they will have a lot to do, but in a higher level of like producing new ideas, or like in a very high order thinking. I would expect that, but I think we have to work more. We have to think more of why we have hierarchies within academia, how to get rid of that, how people will work in equitable way, resources within our world, how we are going to distribute that, and those values and cultures, our culture, academic culture, ethnic culture, whatever culture we have, to understand ourselves first in order to have a higher level of human communication, I hope.
Thanks, Amani. Just about the topic of the school, when I was, I think, 12 or 13 years old, my siblings, they got a computer with this dot printer, and then I had bad handwriting, so I decided to type an essay on the computer, and I was so proud that, because I used to get deduction on the grade because of bad handwriting. And the teacher in the school, she gave me a warning that if next time I do this, I type it, she will give me a deducted grade. So she said, this is unacceptable. You have to do it handwritten. So, now in retrospect, we laugh about it. At that time, you feel really bad as a student in the class. All right. And the last question goes to Peter. It's from Iran. And it says, how can we ensure that AI is harnessed to promote the underlying values upholding our society, rather than allowing AI to determine what those values are? So here, this question, I felt it a little bit the most complex one, because it touches the ethics part, the societal values, which has been also discussed today, and the potential for AI to shape these concepts. And I thought maybe to require some more deep understanding of both technology and the philosophical underpinnings of society. So Peter, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ziad. And it's great to see you overcame that initial barrier on handwriting versus dot matrix printing and thrived. And we're all in your fan club. Listen, I think that I'll use this question about values almost as an entry point for a bit of a recap. When I think about AI, I think about three things. The first is, and first and foremost, is the existential threats. And again, I think that the benefits greatly outweigh the risks, but those existential threats in some technologies like AI are worth putting right up front. And I gave a concrete example in the area of biosecurity that intersects with academia. So number one, existential threats. Number two is equity. And we had a discussion of equity. It required leadership, collaboration. I gave that concrete example of the Grand Challenge on AI and global health that's aiming to enable and facilitate leaders. But number three, and I only think about three things when it comes to AI, is governance. And this is where everything else can come out. And here, to be very concrete, I wanted to point people towards the United Nations AI advisory body, which was struck in October 2023, issued its first report actually in December 2023, very quickly, an interim report called Governing AI for Humanity. And it identified a number of 5 guiding principles. And maybe that's a good place to start on this question of values. And the guiding principles were inclusivity, public interest, centrality of data governance, universal networked and multi-stakeholder, and international law. And there's much more detail. You can easily Google UN AI and find that thing, but they've also launched a request for consultation. And I think the deadline for consultation is March 2024. So it's a good opportunity to engage with those underlying values, at least that the United Nations advisory body says should underlie. The overarching issue is governance. And to me, governance, if I only had to think about 3 things in relation to AI, it would be existential threats, equity, and governance in that order. And of course, underlying governance, you have the opportunity to look at all the values, but then also all the institutional processes that need to be in place for the effective and ethical governance of AI in academia and more broadly. So Ziad, I'll stop there. Those are my 3 things: existential threats, equity, and governance, as maybe a way of recapping these excellent conversations. And I've learned so much from the colleagues. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Peter. Actually, I will also look for this report, and I will add it into the references in the link below in the video. Also, I invite the other colleagues, if you wish to share any references, please send them to me. I will also add the links below the video. So, any interventions from the colleagues on this question? Please, Jordan.
I love that you've included governance as one of the 3 things you focus on and you look at, Peter. Thank you so much. I think right now it's a bit of a concern. Where do ethics fit in unrolling AI or unleashing the power of AI? I'm not cognizant of all the ecosystems around the globe, but from what I've read, and back in 2016, I took a few courses at MIT on AI and business and governance. And in many ecosystems, ethics are sort of a afterthought. You get a lot of techies driving this, and yes, it's fantastic, all the things they're uncovering, but I would love for the voice of ethics to come in perhaps in a stronger or higher volume than it's been so far. The other thing about values is, how do we make sure that AI does not determine the values that define us? Well, first of all, that starts at an individual level. And I don't know that in academia, we do such a great job in providing students with opportunities and guidance to identify the values that define them, the values that are important to them. So there's work at an individual level, and then at a collective level, how do values become institutionalized or become the norm in a society? We also have to look at that process if we want to understand where AI has benefits and possible risks as well.
Thanks, Jordan. Any further interventions from the colleagues? Maria,
Yes,
please.
I would like to say that it's not about AI determining our values. It's about ourselves rethinking and reshaping our values. So this is where we are right now. I would like also to shed lights on some areas that maybe we have to think about. Because I come from the communication and media field, so we have maybe to rethink about copyright laws, privacy laws, sharing of confidential information. So all of these are related to the values that we have and to the regulatory frameworks that I have also mentioned in my previous answer. So it's not about determining values. Values are relative, and they are something that should be evolving and fast evolving. So that's why maybe it's a good opportunity for us to, it's not a threat, it's a good opportunity for us to rethink and redefine our values.
Thanks, Maria. Ray, Amani, any further comment? Amani, please.
Yes, I'm just curious about which values that he's talking about or he's asking, because it can be like values at work or values at like in different, it can mean different things. For example, values at work, like determined by different things. If we look at the continent, for example, so if you think about values at work, like for example, like if you have a meeting, will you arrive punctually, or will you, like the preferences in a way? Like if we go to those at the personal level, but it depends as well what values. But I prefer to have like maybe a word like competences or skills, because it's more related to work. That's why I'm a bit, I don't understand what exactly he means by values. But in general, I think there is like, I'm talking about myself as an educator or as a researcher, we have to work on ourselves first. Like what values or what skills, what competencies that we want ourselves and our students, we are teaching or we are training in order to, they will be connected to our society. So it's a circle. So what competencies that we want our students, we have to consider that as in our higher education institution for future, within the challenges that we have in our worlds, and within this quick production of those AIs. How are we going to cope with that? What our process will be, what our operation will be like, how can we use it, how can we apply that in a good way instead of just fearing what will happen. Thank you.
Thanks, Amani. Please,
I
Ray.
could finish off as I can. It's in my opinion, historically, technologies do not promote or accelerate values. New transformative technologies reveal our values. So it's not our job to figure out how to tweak artificial intelligence or other technologies to reinforce the society we think we want. It's our job to appreciate what it's revealing for us. And that's going to take a societal effort, and it will take a generation to do so. But we have to be open to the lessons that the technology will reveal for us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ray. Any final thought of any of the colleagues? No? Okay, that was really very exciting. Jordan, please.
Oh, I might bite my my lips for saying this, and generally, Ray, I agree with you. But there's a part of the brain where there's still a red flag that goes up on the abuse by some or the derivations of AI that can chip away at some of our values. Think about misinformation. Think about, you know, how AI surfaces perhaps or allows to surface perhaps an uglier side of human nature when it taps into some of our darker motivations. Last night I was watching a report on French news here, and this year in 2024, half the world is going to be voting in some election or another, half the world. And the report was looking at democracies that have eroded over time. And I was flabbergasted to find out that the number of dictatorships and autocracies around the world has gone from 33, if my memory serves me right, to 56 in a period of about 20 years. That did not happen overnight. And so in much the same way, I think abuses of AI, and I'm with Peter in when he says that, you know, the benefits outweigh, you know, the negative impacts. But I think there's still a risk that AI chips away at some of those values, and we may realize it too late. So I think the burden, and I agree with your observation that, you know, new tech reveals our values, and I think it may reveal them in terms of how we protect them, how we frame legally and in other ways the use, the impacts of AI, so that, you know, that'll reveal which values do we care to protect. And only because democracy is such a fungible construct right now, that's where my brain went. So again, Maria, I'm not trying to be pessimistic here, quite the contrary.
Great. Thank you so much, everyone. And really, all the best with all your AI interests, because apparently each one of you is quite busy with something with the AI. Thanks a lot, really, for your time again today.